Succe, John Whetten.
Hi. So I was really hoping for a little bit of downstage music, if I could get that. I'm going to play you a song and then tell you a story. So here goes nothing. Just have to get started on the right note. That's the most important part. All right. So that worked out really well, which I'm very happy about. And maybe I could get a clicker. So if you were to tell me last year when I was on stage, that this year I would be playing a musical instrument, I would have told you you are absolutely out of your mind, because I am not a musician at all. I was forced as a small child to take piano lessons like a lot of kids are, and as soon as I could play a few church hymns, my mom let me stop going to piano lessons. But in the last year, I have learned some really important lessons from Gary, and I want to share that with you today because it has really changed my life. But I want to take you through the process of how I learned what I learned so that you can see how I got here. So last summer, some of the leadership team went on this camping trip up above where Gary grew up. Gary grew up in Chalice, Idaho. And he often took his family and members and friends up camping to this place called Warm Springs. And nobody's been up there for about 10 years. So I thought we should go. And Gary took horses and everything. We just backpacked in all of our gear. You can see Mary in this shot. Gary literally took the kitchen sink. We sat on the ground. Gary went fishing, so of course we went fishing. Anyway, in researching these trips that Gary would take to this place, I tried to recreate as many experiences and opportunities as we possibly could. But last year there was one element that we didn't have, and it has to do with I have a little video clip to play you. So that's Gary playing a harmonica. Mary had never seen that clip before, and so she was actually shocked when she saw it. And so I thought, okay, next year I would love to have some live music. So I was very dedicated in this decision. I thought, I've always wanted to learn to play the guitar, but a guitar is big and I need to pack this thing in, so I'm going to get a ukulele. And I spent $20 because I was 100% dedicated to this goal. As you can tell. At the same time, last year, I was working on these math problems. All the employees down here know exactly what this is because I would work on these in the morning and I'd come into the office and tell them, oh, this math problem that I've been working on, da 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 da. So there's this website called Project Euler, which is fun because it sounds like oils, but it's just this French mathematician's last name. And there are all these projects on this website, and there's these math problems, and you have to work through them. And so there's this problem like this. I'm not going to read this, but it's the Fibonacci sequence. But really what this was about was learning to design algorithms to solve these mathematical problems. So I was doing this every day. I was living and sleeping and breathing these mathematical algorithms. And an algorithm is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. So I'll just show you how this works. We're going to generate a few terms in the Fibonacci sequence. So you start off with 1 and 2, you add them together, and you get 3. And then you take the last 2 terms, the 2 and the 3, and you add them together. And then you get 5. And then you take those 2 terms, and you get 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. And then we go 5 plus 8 is equal to 13. And so on and on and on. You can just run this forever, and you'll just generate a huge long list of numbers, and that's the Fibonacci sequence. So all of you are familiar with what an algorithm is, because there's actually another word for algorithm, and that is recipe. And so when I was just living these algorithms, and I was trying to reverse engineer how to solve these problems, and so I started asking myself a question. Did Gary have an algorithm or a recipe for accomplishing his goals? And if he did, maybe I could replicate that, just like doing these, and I would have more success in my life similar to how Gary had success. And so I began by listing out a whole bunch of projects that I had worked on with Gary over the 10 years that I worked with him. And I started to look for commonalities between all of those projects, because there would be threads of commonality that ran throughout those, and there would be an algorithm or a recipe that would emerge from this. And so in doing this, I came up with basically 5 ingredients. And the first is, my initial take at this was not quite this wording, but you'll know why I changed it in a minute. Show up with commitment and discipline. This algorithm is not about setting goals. You have to already know what you want to do, and you have to have enough commitment and discipline inside of you to accomplish that. So the second ingredient is you have to give yourself an unreasonable deadline. And I started sharing this algorithm with people in the office as I was developing it. And every time I said the unreasonable deadline, everybody said, yes, that's so true. The third ingredient is you have to tell everyone what you are doing. And then the fourth ingredient is kind of like just an instruction, like letting the bread to rise. The ingredients 1 through 3, if done properly, will cause this emergent effect of your dream team showing up to help you make your dreams come true. And then the third thing is you must remember that you are on a journey and there is no destination. Okay, so now I want to just take you through these 5 ingredients, and because I have a story that goes with each one. And so we already talked about this. You just have to show up with this. Like, I can't give this to you. The second one, the unreasonable deadline. Everybody knows about the story of Gary building this distillery in Croatia. He'd actually set a goal to finish it in 2 weeks, so 14 days. He went over, which is normal for Gary. He always went over his deadline, but he would set an unreasonable deadline and then come close to achieving it. We're going to talk about that more in just a second. So there's Gary with the first distillation. We'll just play that next video.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. If you could have a drink with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I'll just go with the answer that I would probably give the most. J.S. Bach.
oh my God, like the most prolific musician ever. But just, he was ordinary, and he was kind of like deemed ordinary to a certain extent, right? So
exactly. If you read about just his life, I've been to Leipzig, where there's a museum, obviously, and where he used to work, and you see all of these artifacts. So you can, hypothetically put together a picture of J.S. Bach, this ordinary family man that was an extraordinary, and that's really downplaying it, musician, just incredible.
I went to Leipzig. The thing I took away from it was just the deadlines. It's like he had so many deadlines, like weekly, daily deadlines he had to meet, and that's why he was so prolific. And it's just like, if you don't have, I think if there is a misconception, if someone, doesn't necessarily know all that much about him and understand that was why he produced so much in his lifetime, it's like, set yourself deadlines, like actually figure it out.
I should have given you just a little bit of preface for that video. It was a podcast interview between two musicians, and obviously I was working on music at the time. And I thought to myself, wow, J.S. Bach, this just amazing composer, musician, he became who he was because of deadlines. And that really sunk into me. So I'm going to read, I did more research on what is it behind deadlines that is so important. And I found this blog post, and I want to just read this to you. Speed matters, why working quickly is more important than it seems. The obvious benefit to working quickly is that you will finish more stuff per unit time. But there's more to it than that. If you work quickly, the cost of doing something new will seem lower in your mind, so you'll be inclined to do more. The converse is true. If every time you write a blog post, it takes you 6 months and you're sitting around your apartment on a Sunday afternoon thinking of stuff to do, you're probably not going to think of starting a blog post because it will feel too expensive. Part of the activation energy required to start any task comes from the picture you get in your head when you imagine doing it. It may not be that going for a run is actually costly, but if it feels costly, if the picture in your head looks like a slog, then you will need a bigger expenditure of willpower to lace up. Slowness seems to make a special contribution to this picture in our heads. Time is especially valuable. So as we learn that a task is slow, a special cost accrues to it. Whenever we think of doing the task again, we see how expensive it is and bail. That's why speed matters. And then I started thinking to myself, have you ever bought something because it was on sale? How many have ever bought something only because it was on sale? You didn't actually need it. Okay. I actually met a girl once who had a tattoo, and I asked her why she got it, and she said it was on sale. I think that's the strangest thing I've come across so far. So the interesting thing about time is that unlike money, in which you have a choice to spend it or not, our time is spent whether we use it productively or not. There is no such thing as saving time. You might be able to use time more efficiently or more productively, but nobody saves time. And I think this all help us to understand why the unreasonable deadline is such an important ingredient in this recipe. Okay, the third ingredient, tell everyone what you are doing. This is a fun one. So I was thinking back, you guys can play that video. I'll just talk over the top, there's no audio. I was thinking back at a time when I was traveling with Gary, and I think that he had found an advertisement in the in-flight magazine, and he had torn it out. And we were over in Oman, and we were working on frankincense stuff, and so of course we're trying to do research on frankincense, but Gary would take this advertisement out. It was about making bricks with this brick machine, and he showed it to everybody. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, who is this guy? Like, we're supposed to be here doing research on frankincense, making this documentary, and he keeps talking to people about making bricks. And this is early on in my time with Gary. And this went on and on and on. And eventually we ended up in Ethiopia. And again, he's like, do you guys know anything about this brick making machine? There's a number. There was a number and an address. It was in South Africa. He could have called them. But the fascinating thing is we eventually ran into somebody in Ethiopia that had a brick factory that used these brick machines. And so we got to go there, and I helped Gary shoot this video so that we could understand the process. And we'll just move past the video now. And I want to show you this letter from 2013. It's Mary writing about their Christmas letter. We had a wonderful time in Ecuador and celebrated the groundbreaking ceremony for the new addition to the Young Living Academy that was built for 47 students and now has 180 attending. It's going to be built with blocks or bricks made at the farm with a new machine that makes bricks with cement and dirt, a new adventure. So the whole time, I'm thinking, who is this crazy guy that wants to talk about making bricks? But Gary knew that he needed bricks to build projects in Ecuador. Okay, the next ingredient, or step in the process, is that if you do those first three right, your dream team will emerge. This is just an emergent phenomenon. People, when you know what you want and you give yourself a deadline, people will show up to help you do it. And so I'm just going to stay on the same thread of making bricks. There was a devastating earthquake in Nepal in 2015, I believe. And Gary went there and he said, guess what? I know how to make bricks. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to help you build your village, rebuild your village. And I have a team of people that will help me. And so many of you volunteered to go to Nepal and help make bricks. And then we also have the same brick-making factory down in Ecuador, and I know that a lot of you have had a chance to tour the farm and make bricks down there for the school and for other local building projects. So, okay, on to the last ingredient. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. I would say that this is probably the most important after the unreasonable deadline. Maybe that's the most important. It might be a tie. Gary, this was his superpower. It's like for him, failure wasn't a thing. If something didn't go well, he just moved on. He just said, okay, well, we'll just try again tomorrow. It's just a step in the journey. And he didn't expect success immediately, nor did he expect to be an expert immediately. And the story that I want to tell really quickly that goes along with this was Gary learning how to do the dog sled racing. And the first race that he did was the Tustamina 200, and it was roughly 200 miles on the Kenai Peninsula. And we were not allowed to help him. Like, no spectators can touch any of your stuff. Can't touch your dogs, can't hand you food, can't hand you water. But you can accept help from another racer, somebody else that's entered in the race. And so Gary said, well, he had no experience. I think he had been dog sledding for 3 days or 5 days. And he said, great, I can get around this rule. I'm going to hire somebody to race alongside me. And then I don't need to train. I can just go and do the race and train on the way, train in the race. He's like, that's the best kind of training you could ever hope for. And so this is just some of the photos from that trip. Gary was so tired at the end of this because they hardly sleep at all. But Gary did finish. And from here, you can see his name down at the bottom of the list. He finished second to last. So the person he was racing beside is Patrick. And Patrick said, Gary, would you mind letting me finish last? Because the person who finishes last gets a red lantern. And I really want to win the Red Lantern Award. So Gary said, Patrick, I would be more than happy to let you finish last. So the next race that he did, which was just a few weeks later, or a few days later, was called the Willow 300. And this is on the last morning of that race. So two nights had already passed, and it was absolutely freezing. The screen on the back of my camera, I shot these photos. It had frozen. It's a liquid crystal display, LCD. That liquid can freeze. The image was actually, stopped updating. I would take a picture and it would just show the old photo because the liquid had frozen. That's how cold it was. But really, Gary was having a lot of back pain. And one of the race officials went up to Gary and said, you're not going to finish within the time limit. And so you might as well just drop out. And Gary said, I didn't come here to drop out. I'm going to finish this race. He said, I have a lot of people behind me, supporting me, rooting for me, and I'm trying to show my brand partners, my members, that they can do very difficult things that they have dreams of doing. I will not be dropping out. I don't care if you're at the finish line to record me crossing the finish line. I'm still going to cross the finish line. So this is later that day. The judges were so amazed at Gary's tenacity that they stayed and they recorded his finish. And there's Gary hugging Joseph, and you can see Mary there. So, okay, I'm now armed with this recipe. I've come up with this recipe, and then Cobus had asked me to come to Europe and speak. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can talk about this recipe. But I thought, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if I got it wrong? So I thought, well, I better run an experiment. And I thought, what could I run an experiment on? And then I remembered the $20 ukulele, and I thought, this might be a good challenge. I don't play the ukulele, I don't play the guitar, I don't play anything but a little bit of piano. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and I thought, okay, I have 2 weeks to learn how to play the ukulele and sing on stage, and I never sung into a microphone. Like, I don't know how to do any of this. But I said, I'm going to do this. And so I had exactly 2 weeks. On Monday, the 25th of September, I decided. And then on Tuesday, was very busy. Oh, Monday night, I picked a song. Tuesday, I had no chance to practice. But Wednesday is work from home day, and most people don't come into the office. So I took the ukulele to the office. I closed my door, sat in front of my computer and played the song over and over and over and over again until my fingers were so sore I could barely touch anything. And then Thursday, the ukulele's still at the office. I thought, I am not following this recipe properly. I need to tell everybody what I'm doing. And so a lot more people were back in the office on Thursday. And so I thought, I'm just going to take this ukulele and strum it and walk around the entire office. And people would come out and say, what are you doing? I said, I'm playing the ukulele next Sunday in Europe on stage. And they said, we didn't know you played the ukulele. And I said, I don't, but I will. And then I got down to the 3rd floor, and I was in member services. And I talked to a lot of people that day. I have to tell everybody what I'm doing. And I'm going through member services, and a lady stands up, and she says, Aloha, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to play the ukulele next Sunday on stage in Europe. And she said, why? And I said, well, she said, do you play? And I said, I just started a few days ago on Monday. And she said, what song are you going to play? And I told her the song, and she said, you're going to need help, and I'm going to help you. And I thought, are you for real? I started crying, actually. I might even cry right now. Her name is No, by the way, and she grew up in Hawaii. And so then I continued on, and that night I sent Kobus a text, and I said, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to play the ukulele and sing as part of my presentation next week. And he probably didn't know any better. He said, okay, that's great. Friday and Saturday, we were down at the farm, in the Mount Nebo farm for Fall Festival. Took the ukulele. Again, I told everybody what I was doing. On Sunday, I took the ukulele to my parents' house and sang them this song. On Monday, I sang to some people in the office. And then on Tuesday, I thought, you know what? I really should run my recipe by one of our historians, Karen Boren. She reviews all of Gary's transcripts, and I thought, I came up with this on my own. I just need somebody to fact check me. And so I called her up and said, hey, I'm going to do this presentation. I need you to fact check me. And then I told her all the stuff, and then the phone kind of was just silent. And she said, John, you're never going to believe this, but I just reviewed a transcript this morning of Gary teaching the recipe. And I said, for real? So I was able to take the transcript and find the video. So let's look at that.
To be successful in any walk of life requires a tremendous amount of commitment, and then on top of that comes the requirement of discipline. And when I look back and reflect back over all of it, from beginning to present, those are the two elements that I feel were the two elements that brought me to where I am. Because I made a commitment, or made a choice, and then I made the commitment with the same intensity. And then I do a third thing that sometimes really bothers Mary and some of the co-workers, and that's that I go ahead and speak what I'm going to do before I do it. And I've watched Mary get the shakes from it, and Mary made that comment last night, don't let Gary go there. He'll see the whole vision and want to do it tomorrow.
It's called telling the truth in advance.
Exactly. But I believe very strongly in that for two reasons. One, if you speak your vision and speak what you feel, then that reconfirms your commitment. And once you speak it, then if you don't follow through with it, then you're a liar. And, you know, an honest person never wants to be a liar. So that's why I do it. I call it putting my back against the wall and forcing myself to make it happen. But if you just think it in your mind and you just conceive the idea and you don't make a statement, even though you're committed to that choice that you just decided, but you don't make a verbal statement about it, then there's no one to hold your feet to the fire to see it through. And that can be very challenging, and it can be very difficult because, you know, you've made that commitment and you've told other people that you're going to do this, and you know, all of a sudden people are saying, well, Gary, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And if I'd never made those commitments, I wouldn't have people on the outside supporting me and reminding me that I'd made those commitments. And so the whole time, the whole process keeps me focused and keeps me on track of accomplishing that which I made a choice to do. And so that's why I share this with you, because I think that's where we fall short. Many times in our desires to accomplish, because we don't want other people to look at it and say, oh, you're a failure. Oh, well, you know, you said you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and it never happened. Well, the other thing to keep in mind, just like in my own personal situation, I've made the statements, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I may not fulfill it in the exact time frame that I would like to because of circumstances, but it always happens.
Pretty amazing. I was just so shocked and so grateful that we had Gary talking about that. Because he really did go over all of the elements, all of the ingredients. Anyway, Wednesday was a travel day, so we're in the air. And then Thursday through Sunday was the event, didn't have much time to practice. But on Sunday, I basically gave this presentation, and then I sang a song. And Ben sent me a text that night, and he said, "Hey, John, I heard you were exceptional. I'm excited to see the replay. And I wrote back, "I played far worse than I had hoped, but the whole experience was far more magical than I could have ever imagined." And then Ben, of course, said, "I think we're going to need to have this presentation at the 30-year convention, so best keep practicing." So I thought, how can I keep this project going? And I remembered a chapter in this book, Atomic Habits, which Ben also talked about yesterday. Highly recommend it. There's a chapter about a photography class where the professor divides the class into two halves. And one half, he says, "I'm going to grade you on one photograph. You're going to turn in one photograph at the end of the semester, and that will be your entire grade." And then this other half, he said, "I'm going to grade you on 100 photographs, and it will be a composite of all of the quality of all of those photographs." And he said the group that had to do 100 photographs were far better photographers at the end of the project, or the end of the semester, than those that just had to do one, even though they were working for perfection. And then I also came across this video. I'm sure you can search for it on YouTube. There's this lady, she's a real musician, and but she wanted to learn to play the ukulele. And so she heard about this 100-day project where you learn a song a day. And I thought, well, I'm not a musician. Maybe I can learn 100 songs by convention. And so I got started on this because I thought, okay, the 100 photographs, this 100-day project, maybe I can make this work. But I knew that this would be the key to succeeding in my 100-day project, was this last thing. Remember, it's a journey and not a destination. Because if I was going to be learning 100 songs, I would never be able to play any of them perfectly. And then I remembered something that Gary had told me. A long time ago. I don't know exactly when, 2012, I don't know. But I got called into his office, and he handed me a token of gratitude. And he said, I thought he was paying me a compliment at the time. He said, "John, I've always appreciated how much of a perfectionist you are, but I'm just not that way. For me, good enough is good enough." And I thought at the time, it's a good thing that I balance Gary. But last year I was reflecting back on this moment, and I realized Gary was, at that time, was trying to teach me something. And so I thought more about this journey and not a destination, and I realized that good enough is going to have to be good enough. And so I set out to learn 100 songs, and I realized that if I was able to do a song per day, I could get to 200 by convention. And I was supposed to record song 200 on Wednesday, but then this happened. So I got to 199. And maybe I'll do song 200 at the farm tomorrow. It's actually in Chinese, so if the members want to show up and maybe sing Zhou Jieluan's Dao Xiang with me, that would be really fun. So I recorded all of these songs and put them on YouTube. Don't go looking. It's not, I promise it's not worth watching. It's for my family and a couple of close friends. But it was, by putting them on YouTube, they were holding me accountable, right? They were my dream team. They were saying, hey, good job, keep going. But at the end of every one of these songs, I would look into the camera and I'd say, that was good enough. I was so grateful for that lesson that Gary had taught me all those years ago. It took me over 10 years to figure out it was a lesson. And then you're probably wondering about the accordion. What's up with that? Well, how many of you got a chance to ever see Grandma LaRue, Mary's mother, play the accordion? Yeah. So Mary brought the accordion into the office to go into the museum, and as I was working on all of this, I thought, maybe I could also learn to play the accordion. And so I took it home over the Christmas break, and just so happens my father plays the accordion. So on Christmas, I asked my dad to give me an introductory lesson to the accordion, and then 2 weeks later, I actually played it on stage for an event that we had. So that's what that's all about. So I'm just trying to keep the tradition alive. I might be playing at the farm tomorrow under the shade of a tree. It's nothing official. So that brings us to now. This is my $20 ukulele. And it's available for auction. You can buy it. And whoever wins, I'll also be more than happy to do a Zoom call with your team and talk about Gary's recipe for success. And I think the auction closes tomorrow night at 7. Don't quote me on that. But also, if you want, like, Mary to sign it or other, yeah, I'm sure that you could get it signed. But really, I learned to play the ukulele for one reason. That was to sit around. What is wrong with me? So, I learned to play the ukulele so that I could sit around the campfire and sing with my friends. And so, I would like you all to imagine that we are up in the mountains together, sitting around the campfire, and I hope you sing this song with me. Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby, high, 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 oh dreams really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They're really singing, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I? Thank you. Gary's recipe for success has really changed my life. So I guess I'm a musician now. I'm not sure. Anyway, the lyrics to this song are absolutely beautiful. If you find yourself asking, if you have dreams and you find yourself asking, why, oh, why can't I hope that you will experiment like I have with Gary's recipe for success and find out that dreams really can come true. Thank you very much. See you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our session. Enjoy your lunch.
In the sky are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do?